Hi, movie friends. Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm here to talk about the movie Goodrich, which I just got back from seeing at the theater. So, I'll start off with, as I always do, kind of my non-spoiler take on the movie. So, if you're looking for just a what my recommendation is, that's where we'll start, and then we'll dig into spoilers or just kind of open discussion of the movie after that. So I would say this movie for me, it ended up in the A category. It rode the line kind of between B and A, but for me, it really brought it home in the third act. I think it was sitting at a solid B kind of throughout, but I did, yeah, love the final act and just kind of where it landed on things in the end. So I won't really say more than that or like why I liked that. I think if you know me, you might be able to guess why appreciate an ending like I do. But we'll get into that for the spoiler talk. But I think it's a really just kind of wholesome movie. It's a good character study of a person who's just kind of been going through life focused on his career and not so much on his family, and then he's kind of forced to make a decision, or at least he's just kind of hit in the face with the fact that that's been life. And he could he could lean into that and connect more with family or not, and that's kind of what the movie's about. So I think it does a really good take on that and just making the characters feel real, while also being like very flawed, but not completely so. Like there's good and bad qualities in this character, and so I think that's what made it really interesting for me. And then I think the supporting characters as well were all, I think, well done and added quite a bit to the film. But I think it's definitely worth the watch. Maybe not necessarily something you have to see on the big screen, although I think every movie is made better by going to see it on the big screen. But it's definitely one I think you should check out at some point, as more of a it's a drama, but it's not the most serious drama that I've seen. But definitely, I'd say check it out. So with that, we'll get into kind of open talks, which may include spoilers. So if you haven't seen it and don't want to know any more about it, feel free to come back once you have. But with that, let's hop in. So I think for getting back to why I really liked the ending, I love a good like realistic take and or a movie that isn't just a purely sweet ending. And they kind of foreshadowed this in the movie when they're watching Casablanca, and he's like, "Yeah, it's what they call a bittersweet ending." And we get that. I think it's a lot more bitter than you would have thought, but like I think there were several opportunities where I was really hoping they wouldn't go the route of like, oh, his gallery gets saved, or oh, Naomi, like his current wife, is does decide that she's not going to separate from him. But no, like on the hard decisions where you're like, man, they're almost like hitting him when he's down. They carry through with those, and they're decisions that you like understand though, and I think he kind of understands them too. Like he's upset for himself and for his employees that he has to close the gallery when he doesn't get that artist to show, or he doesn't get the estate showing. But I think at the same time, he gets where she's coming from. Like she's doing it to support her family. And while he's upset, he does take it pretty well, all things considered. And then similarly, I think while he's very much hoping things have changed or and his, wife has changed her decision to leave him, I think he just kind of ends up being at peace with it, and then realizes at that point, it's his life isn't really about his partner, it's about his kids and his grandkid. And I think it was yeah, it was really interesting to see. I think part of me was like, "Oh, this seems like out of character for something that like they're establishing this guy has, spent his whole life working towards his career." But I thought they did it in a very believable way where like, yes, his whole life he's been kind of a very different person. But we start the film with him getting the most random call in the middle of the night from his wife who's checked herself into rehab and saying she's going to separate from him. So like that's life hitting you in the face. And a lot of people, like, you've got two options: you can continue doing what you're doing or you can respond to that. And I thought it was beautiful to see him respond to that. Now it doesn't happen overnight. You still see kind of like habits that he needs to break, and there again I thought that was done very well, and, like, it was those aspects of it, like his less than ideal qualities that made it kinda hard to watch. Like, he hasn't been a good dad, he doesn't know, that his son is allergic to nuts, like, enough to check for that, and doesn't know to pack them their lunches, and you can see, like, he's been extremely absent and really doesn't have a good relationship with his children. But, like, that's what it took, and, like, when he kind of had that motivation or that opportunity that's presented to him to kinda, like, have to be their dad, he responds to that and in a really beautiful way. Like, he's not begrudging about it or anything like that. He steps up to it. Like, it takes a bit of work. He's not a natural at it, certainly. But yeah, that's what I really liked about the film. And then I loved his elder daughter's speech at the end where they're going into the doctor appointment and she just lets all of her emotions out that she's been feeling and pent up for her whole life of just being angry at somebody that she also wants to love, and how frustrating it is to see him changing now. Like, how could you why couldn't you have done that for me? Like, of course that's going to make somebody mad. And I thought that scene was really, like, again, kind of hard to watch somebody being upset at another person, but I thought it was a really key scene in the movie that, again, in the third act, kind of brought it home. And then also seeing the Andy, I think his name is the main character, like seeing him accept his son-in-law finally for who he is, and seeing that he's bringing so much to his daughter's life that are holes that are due to his, like, inability as a parent, or his, lacking as a parent, and the kind of accepting that and being at peace with that. And I think, yeah, I those are kind of the things that stood out to me about the film. And yeah, why I ultimately really liked it. It's probably not like one of my favorite movies of the year. Like, it does barely get into the A category for my ratings, but I did. Yeah, I was happy that it made it into that tier by the end of the film, because it was a good film and it deserves it. I don't know that it'll be like super widespread or popular. So if it's not one that you've heard of, I assume at this point though, if you're watching, you probably watched it. But if not, yeah, I think it's still it's yeah, definitely worth the watch. But if you have seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. What did you like about the film? And um yeah, do you also like kind of endings that are bittersweet and have like a more realistic take where it's not the picturesque or the Hollywood ending? Like, a good example of that I think is La La Land, and that's why I love that film. It's like, yeah, it is a sad ending. They don't, well, I guess we won't spoil another movie. But anyway, the that's been out for years though, so it's really public domain as far as spoilers go, I would say. But anyway, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it. But with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.